I'm sure we are all familiar by now with Luigi Mangione, the man who brought the hammer down on the United Healthcare CEO.
Yeah, you can do anything you set your mind to.
Sometimes the right path is not the easiest one.
You're gonna go far.
And this is an event that sparked a rare kind of class solidarity, which added a very uniquely volatile fuel to the long-burning outrage toward corporate greed, lining the pockets of the wealthy at the expense of people trying to receive essential care without going into crippling debt. And among Luigi's online posts included an image of an X-ray, a post-back surgery X-ray, and this has been confirmed to be the surgical measures taken after a surfing injury sustained by Luigi. And this is a surgery that was obviously a failure, as he's said to be suffering chronic back pain. So today I brought my dad with me, who is the best expert I know on this. He's an orthopedic surgeon. He's encountered, hundreds upon hundreds of surgeries like these countless times. And I want to gain some sort of specialized clarity and also get a physician's perspective on the universally resented for-profit healthcare system and how it affects doctors who are workers within a system that exploits, and they're doing what they can to provide care while navigating a system that is built very much around profit rather than patient outcomes. That is it for my little intro. Hello, Dad. What's going on?
Hey.
Happy to have you. I'm good. I'm pretending like this is the first time I've talked to you all day, but we've been talking.
Yep. It wouldn't matter if we hadn't talked or not. We've talked for 21 years, so.
Yeah, just about. Actually, I think on that note, also worth mentioning is that the age where you're not protected under your family's healthcare or your parents' healthcare is 26, and that's the age that Luigi is. I think that's pretty
interesting.
Yeah. But my first question is, what is this X-ray? Can you break it down for me? Tell me about it.
From my brief quick look at it, it looks like a multi-level fusion of the lumbar spine. And by multi-level, I mean the lumbar spine consists of 5 vertebrae and then the sacrum. And if I recall, it looked like he had an L4, L5, L5S1, a fusion of more than one level. That's significant in that, for a number of reasons, it's a larger surgery. So a one-level fusion is a large enough surgery. In most people's hands, that's going to take a couple of hours at least. Of course, everyone does it at a different rate. And it's causing one defective level or one painful level. When I say level, I'm talking about the intervertebral discs. So you have your vertebrae, which is the bone, and then you have the intervertebral disc, which at the age of 26 should be healthy. But as we age, the disc becomes desiccated and it becomes less, the fluid within the disc gets less and less, and it becomes less absorbent of shock and easier to injure. So at 26 years old, your intervertebral discs are about as healthy as you can imagine. So for them to be injured, herniated, torn, ripped, in any way injured, it requires a fair amount of trauma, a fair amount of energy at 26 that maybe at 56 it would require less. Mm-hmm. To get back surgery, lumbar fusion surgery at that age is just a problem because it's almost like getting a knee replacement or a hip replacement, which is more my wheelhouse of expertise. Although I have done many spine surgeries both in residency and in my career assisting my neurosurgeon buddies.
So you're saying he was ill-advised? You think he was ill-advised about this surgery?
It certainly would be the absolute last resort in my practice, and I would do everything short of that, everything to help the patient get better short of that. Because once you do a fusion, you can never undo it. You can never go backwards. Mm-hmm. So proverbially, you're burning bridges that you can never uncross, or you're crossing bridges you can never uncross.
Right.
You're burning bridges. And so I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback. There's too many doctors doing that. But just in my practice, I don't know what he had,
Yeah.
what injury he had. Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you have a guy that gets thrown out of a car or a motorcycle, and they have shattered all of their vertebrae, and there's no stability there, and that's a trauma that is life-threatening, and often they're paralyzed, the whole thing. If you're just dealing with pain, which again I don't know the details, full details of his situation, but for pain, to treat it with the fusion is a relatively drastic measure at 26. One that is fraught with present and future complications. I hesitate to say, I don't know if the surgery went wrong. It certainly had an unsuccessful result. So you can have a perfectly performed surgery, and it have a failed result. I know that's probably hard for the layperson to understand. Obviously, the doctor wants the patient to be happy, and there are certain objectives that the physician is trying to achieve in doing this surgery. It may not meet the expectations of the patient undergoing the surgery. In fact, it's very common for the doctor or the surgeon and the patient to have very different expectations as to what a successful surgery should be.
My next question is, so Luigi is someone from an affluent background, and still obviously had very legitimate gripes with the American healthcare system. I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that in much the same way, doctors who might outwardly appear to be making a comfortable income still face significant challenges navigating a system that prioritizes profits and profit margins over the ethical responsibility to provide care. I think in many ways this is an issue that transcends class. Do you have specific stories or instances of how this dynamic manifests between doctors and patients from your account?
Yes. So, okay, this is such a touchy but complicated but yet vital issue. But so let's just put it out there. Surgeons make a lot of money. Orthopedic surgeons make a lot of money. Neurosurgeons. We also go over usually about $1 million into debt before we begin to make money. But that's another story for another day. And I think it's important to note that surgeons get paid exactly what Medicare or Blue Cross Blue Shield says they get paid. In other words, we do not set our own prices. So medicine is price fixed. So for a total knee replacement, I get a certain fee that the insurance pays me. Usually they pay me even less than the agreed upon fee. I usually have to chase them for weeks to months to get paid. So unlike a plumber who comes in my office and installs a hot water heater or a water cooler and I pay him on the way out, or he takes the machine with him, medicine, I recall a very specific instance in my practice where my office manager was sitting at the desk and she said, yes. And I'm like, what's so good? What happened? And she says, we got paid for that ACL reconstruction that we did 9 months ago. I want to say maybe longer, 12 months ago. And we got paid less than Medicaid agreed, but we got paid something. And I said, well, how much did we get paid? Just out of morbid curiosity, I should have never asked that question. And for a very complicated ACL reconstruction that is a life-changing procedure, which is the difference between you ever playing sports again or walking correctly, we got paid $900. The water, and that same day I had hired a plumber to bring a water cooler for the office that provided fresh water, cold and hot, through a water cooler dispenser. And I said, how much money did we just pay that plumber? $950 for probably 20 minutes of work and installing it versus, an hour of work 9 months ago. That's a very true, real anecdote. Yeah. Now, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for an orthopedic surgeon. What I'm trying to elucidate is that, number one, insurances pay us a very small amount of your medical bill. So for that ACL reconstruction that was performed on that young lady who needed the surgery, she tore her ACL playing sports. It probably took me 45 minutes to an hour to fix it. She recovered beautifully. It restored her life. If for example her hospital bill was $50,000, which wouldn't be unusual, I got paid $900. So that should put in perspective where the money lies. Number one. Number two, I got paid almost a year or more later, or months and months and months later. So number three, probably a large portion of what I was supposed to get paid, it was called patient responsibility, which means the insurance company, even though they're getting money from the client, expects the doctor to chase the patient for money. And in my particular instance, I don't do that. I don't send patients to collections. I don't bankrupt patients over bills. I leave that money on the table. If they choose to pay, I do bill them. By law, you have to bill them. That's the other thing. If you don't bill them as a surgeon, the insurance company will go after you, saying that you're essentially, if you don't bill the patient and try to chase them for money, the insurance thinks of that as you're giving them too much access to care. Your job as the doctor is to bill them when they come in and bill them after surgery, because it's kind of like an impediment to them seeking more care. So if you forgive that bill, if you don't bill them, that's, I want to say it's either against the law or it's in violation of it may not be against the law, but it's certainly in violation of the insurance contract that you have with them. You must go after them for their responsibility. Now, I don't have to send them to collections. I send them a bill because that's part of my contract with the insurance company. But if they don't pay the bill, I don't deny them access. I'm not saying some doctors don't do that, because a lot of them do. That's why Medicare bills are some of the leading causes of personal bankruptcy, because both the hospital and the doctors tend to send patients to collections and just try to bankrupt them. I just don't do that. Another instance I can say is when I had a patient in the hospital who was indigent, who had no insurance, and I was on call, so I took the responsibility to take care of this patient. I walked in the room one morning to check on the patient, and the hospital bill collector was in there in the patient's room trying to get the patient to sign papers to agree that they were responsible for the bill. Now, if I had brought my office into the hospital, my bill collector into the hospital to do a wallet biopsy on this patient, I would have been ridiculed, probably punished or written up or something. How dare you, Dr. Johnson, bring your office manager, your office bill collector into this hospital to try to collect some money from this indigent patient? How dare you try to get paid? But I walked in on the hospital's bill collector trying to pressure this lady into signing papers so that she could basically go after every asset in her life to get this money. Now, my job was just to take care of the patient. I don't even check whether they have payment or not. When I used to take call, I don't take call anymore. But I took call for over 15 years. So that's another instance. But not to get too long-winded, I hope these are helpful.
No, absolutely.
Anecdotes, but
these are awesome.
It pains me to say, but in my opinion, the physicians are a tool in this abusive system. And often it takes us way too long in our career to realize that we're a tool in a system that is stacked against the very people that we dedicated our lives to treat. And unfortunately, the insurance companies are a huge part of the problem. The hospital system is a huge part of the problem. Our healthcare system, which I like to refer to as a sick care system, because it could care less about health. In practice, maybe in preaching it does, but in practice it does not. In principle it may, but in practice it does not. And as a result, you become disenchanted and jaded very quickly, because you realize that everybody is in this for the money primarily, and the doctors are the ones that get paid essentially the least and the last in the process. I can almost assure you that the hospital got paid for that ACL months before I did, and got paid exponentially more.
I mean, I like what you said. Doctors are used as tools by both sides. I've been lucky enough not really to experience it, not only because I'm 21, but because I've never really had a major injury or illness or anything like that.
Right.
I think a lot of
Two
people,
doctors for parents.
yeah, and that, like, I've been able to avoid a lot of this. You gave a lot of helpful
Well,
insights.
I often say there's no such thing as good insurance. So there are a lot of people that come in, usually affluent people or people that have good jobs, and they're very proud to say, oh, I have great insurance. I have the best insurance. It's all the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same. It's all the same. There's no great insurance. There's no best insurance. Particularly for the provider. Like when you present me an insurance card, the same tactics, deny, defend, delay, are going to be for your insurance as for everybody else's.
Yep.
And so there's really no great insurance. The whole concept is to delay, deny, defend.
Yeah.
And then the amount of money they pay the doctor is still way lower than market value or that of what we would charge. So for the provider, there's no such thing as good insurance. And for the consumer, there's really no such thing as good insurance. There's relatives of evil. This might be the lesser of two evils. But every insurance pretty much in principle works the same. That's why I have my own surgical center and all my own stuff, because I can use my office and my surgical center to help patients, and I have many times, who can't afford to pay.
Yeah. I think that's a great note to end it on, the little optimism. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I think
My
that's
pleasure.
it.
My pleasure.